Okay, now remember that you will need to be on your .abdn.ac.uk email if you wish to go. Okay, so we're conducting that test now. Also, just a couple of things that I missed there. It's worth mentioning, as you can see on your screen, that the event is recorded, but it is not live streamed. So please just make sure that you don't say anything that you wouldn't wish to be recorded. Generally speak as though you were in public, because you are. Obviously, there's roughly 200 people in this chat currently, and also it will be recorded and made available to the rest of the university. So just, keep an eye on what you're saying, okay? Okay, yeah. Anything else you can just read off the page there. Just 1 second, we're just dealing with the technical difficulties. If you refresh, apparently it should work now. Okay, so if everybody just wants to give that that vote a go for a second, make sure you familiarize yourself with the voting process. It'll be similar to that throughout the rest of the night. So if you just want to go and give that a try just now and see how it goes. Hopefully it should work for everybody. We'll have a couple of minutes just while we do that test. And then we'll move on to the proceedings. If you're still having issues with it, you can try and refresh, and that might do something for you, hopefully. Okay, right. Hopefully everybody's had long enough now to test for the test the voting process. Hopefully you know how it works now. If you don't know how it works, there'll be a staff member helping you out with that as we go forward. Now then, now that that's done, now that the opening's done, we'll get into the main agenda of the night. Okay, so we have the last year's minutes to approve. So that was from the AGM of 2021. They are presented in the order that they need to be approved as an accurate account of what happened at the last meeting. Okay, so they can be referred to in the future if anybody's interested in what happened at these at that meeting. So you should all have access to those, but do please make sure that they are accurate to the best of your knowledge. And then once you are satisfied with them, or if you aren't satisfied with them, a form will be put into the chat just now where you can go and vote just as we did in the practice just a second ago. So if you'll just, that will be going through just now, that's just been sent in. So you can now go and vote on that. Make sure that you're happy with the minute meetings. If you are, you can vote to approve them. If you are not happy with them, you can vote to reject them. And you can also vote to abstain if you wish to. Okay, so take a few minutes to do that. Okay, we should have about 3 minutes of voting time for that. So it's just to give everybody enough time to make sure that they get their vote recorded properly, and then the vote is closed. Okay, if you do wish to vote, please get your vote in just now because we're just about to close it. So do please get it in right now if you can. Okay, I think we're just closing that now, and we'll just put up the results in just a second, okay? Okay, everybody, the results are in the chat. If you care to look. So with 130 votes to approve, 0 votes to reject, and 36 abstentions, this passes. Okay, very good. Okay, so that is the accepted minutes for the last year. Okay, so that's the minutes approved. We can now move on to the next section of the agenda. Okay, so for point 3, we have the annual report, the financial statements, and the appointment of the auditors update for this year. Okay, so this is presented by the chair of the trustee board, also the student president. If you'd just like to come up and begin the presentation, please, for the student president.
Hello, everyone. Can you all see and hear me? Perfect. Cool. Hello, everyone. Alisa Köster, your student president and also chair of the trustee board, and I'm going to present the Ausa accounts for the past year. So note that this is the financial year coming up to July 2021 and not what we are currently going through, as you can see on the slide. So the trustees of Ausa have a certain legal and other obligations to prepare accounts for the organization and to have them audited. These obligations arise from the Education Act under the Scottish Charity Law, Ausa's own constitution, and the funding agreements with the University of Aberdeen. And Ausa prepares its annual accounts for a 12-month period to the 31st of July each year and has them audited by an independent firm of auditors. The latest accounts were prepared for the 12-month period to the 31st July 2021 and were formally approved by the trustee board in March following the annual audit process. The full document is now available on the Ausa website if you want to look there, and you can see the link on the slide as well. As members of Ausa and in the interest of transparency, you have the right to be able to have an oversight of the financial situation of this association. So as I mentioned, the full document is available on the website. It's around 40 pages long. I don't intend to go through it in detail, but I will give you some highlights over the next few minutes. And if you have any more detailed queries on the account, then please email me afterwards and we will get back to you and explain it more thoroughly. Before I start, it is worth highlighting that as a Scottish charity, Ausa needs to comply with certain accounting requirements laid down by law. So we need to account for our income and expenditure in different ways as followed. Our funds are divided in unrestricted funds and restricted funds. The unrestricted funds can be spent as trustees choose to see fit. So whatever trustees think they're fit, they are subject to overall restrictions in the constitution, obviously, but it's effectively our day-to-day business money. And then there are the restricted funds, which is any income received and given for a specific purpose that can only be used for that purpose and not for anything else. So an example for that would be if we get specific funding by the Scottish Funding Council for sustainability purposes, we cannot use that on anything else. And if we don't use all of that money, then we need to return the unused money at the end of the term. As you will be aware, the pandemic and lockdown severely limited Ausa's ability to operate as normal, and for much of the year was either strictly online or hybrid. Due to this, our own student cafe and bar Union Brew operated under various restrictions, opening only during September to December. Now bear in mind again, we're speaking of the academic year 2020-21. Despite this, we ended the year with an unrestricted surplus of £74,000 and a restricted surplus of £73,000, although we had originally budgeted for a loss. This is partly due to timing differences between receiving money and the money being used. For example, continued COVID restrictions in the second half of the year halted various activities we had already received funding for, such as sport clubs' facility usage of ASV. But more funding was also received for the International Student Fund. However, also less payments were made, so these funds have been carried forward for future years. Our core funding that we received from the University of Aberdeen was £765,000. This has not changed since 2017 and remains the current level of our funding for this financial year. The university also provides additional restricted funding, which can only be used for buying time at ASV. The normal grant is £160,000. However, due to restrictions preventing sports activities for part of a year, only about £80,000 was required. We were also able to claim furlough grants for our union brew and sports staff, totaling in 20,000 K in the year, with Ausa continuing to top up the balance of salary to normal levels. Now, I hope that made all sense so far. During the year, Ausa paid out grants to its sport clubs, totaling £33.5 thousand and totaling grants to societies that result in £11.5K. Money collected from the sports union and the society union memberships £3,000 received from the University Development Trust for such purposes. Affiliation fees of £15 for the sports union and £2.50 after the VAT for society union fees have remained static for some years, and these fees are used to fund grants back to our clubs and societies, so all of that money goes directly back into student activity pockets. Our staff costs were £637,000, which represented around 83% of our core university grant. And our annual audit was carried out in February. No issues or concerns were raised by the auditors to the trustee board in the final report, which is on the pages 17 to 19 of the document that you can find on the website. We would propose that Henderson Logie, who has been our external auditor, should be retained as auditors of the association for a further year. And finally, our financial position at the 31st of July 2021 was relatively secure with unrestricted reserves of £357,000 and restricted reserves of £119,000. So I hope that has given you a brief overview of Ausa's financial situation. Again, if there are any questions, I'll do my best in getting back to you. Either email me after this meeting, I'll put my email address in the chat again, or ask them in another matter. Thank you.
I do believe that we're able to take questions just now as well, aren't we? Yes, yeah, of course. Sorry, my bad. Okay, Anthony, would you like to kick us off with a question then, please? Just give us a second and we'll make it so that we can speak with you.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Thanks, Anthony from the Gaudi. Just a quick question regarding the finances. It says the Union Brew had an income of about £2,000. I was wondering over what period of time that was. Was that about 9 months, or how long was that?
Student president.
Sorry, I had some troubles unmuting there. So the period is 12 months, as this is the period we audited for.
Okay, does that answer your question, Anthony?
I should probably add that Union Brew was only open for about 3 of those months due to the pandemic challenges.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Cool. Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions at the moment? One second. Again, if you could just lower your hand. Sorry, if you could raise your hand, please. Or put if you could put your questions in the chat also if you're unable to use the raise your hand function. If not, Right, well, it doesn't look like we have any further questions coming in just now anyway. Cool. Okay, right, we shall move on then. Thanks very much for that, student president. However, if you would stay with us, please, because the next section is the affiliations, the list of external organizations that we are affiliated to as a union, and it'll be presented once again by the student president.
Hello again. Now this is a relatively short agenda point. Our affiliation to NUS UK, the charity part as well as the democratic part, come up to around £20,000 per year. We paid £6,837.59 to the Scottish student sport called SSS. It should have been over £9,000, but the fee was discounted due to COVID. And our Bucks affiliation is £10,000, 799. This is literally it. We don't have that many affiliations, and as you can see, the student sport was discounted due to COVID impacting most of their operations and thus our sport club's operations. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them together with the trustee board questions under agenda point 5.
Okay, as said, the student president will take the questions in the next agenda point, so we'll move immediately on to the next agenda point and begin that then. Okay, so for the next section of the agenda, we are moving on to open questions to the trustee board. So this is a section where the meeting can ask the trustee board any questions that you might have related to their work. So it's the same again, please use the raise your hand function and we'll allow you to unmute, or if you're unable to do that, you can also put them in the chat. These questions should relate exclusively to the work of the trustee board or any governance or long-term strategy related to the union. It shouldn't be things related to the work of the sabbatical officers specifically, okay? There'll be a section for that in a second. So if you have any questions related to that, just hang on to them for a second and we'll move on to that in a minute. But this is for questions relating to the work of the trustee board. Okay, so I'm unsure if anybody's going to come in and say anything. We're just going to immediately open the floor, I think, to asking questions. So if anybody has any questions, let's begin. Just make sure that you put them either raise your hand or you could put them in the chat if you're unable to use that function. Student president.
Sorry, I was just wondering, whilst we're waiting for people to raise their hands, if I should quickly talk the AGM members through who is actually sitting on the Ausa trustee board.
It could be helpful.
Sure. So the Ausa trustee board is our highest board, and it's basically everything that happens at student council needs to be agreed on by the trustee board as well, ratified by the trustee board afterwards. The Ausa trustee board consists of the sabbatical officers who are sabbatical trustees. I, as student president, am also the chair of the trustee board. Then we've got student trustees who are appointed into the role. We currently have 2 student trustees. We have 2 external trustees. Their names are Sandy McKinnon and John Matthews, and we have 1 university nominated trustee, which is the VP for Education, Ruth Taylor, just so that you get an idea of who is on the trustee board. As I mentioned before, it's our highest executing board, and anything that we decide in the student council needs to be ratified by the trustee board just to make sure that we work in consultants with the Scottish charity law, because after all, we are a charity and we need to comply to all those laws. I hope that was helpful.
Okay, thank you very much. With that in mind, would anybody like to ask any questions relating to the work of the trustees? Okay, as far as I can see, there are no questions to be asked. All right, then. We'll move on directly to the next part of the agenda, which is the sabbatical officer reports and the Q&A. Okay, so this will be led again by the student president, and we'll basically begin that immediately. So if you had any questions relating to the work of the sabbatical officers, you can now ask that specifically rather than asking about the work of the trustees. Okay, so we'll begin with the student president.
Thank you, Chair. The sabbaticals are going to briefly take you through some of the work and successes we had this year. So from summer 2021 up to the present moment, which is the middle of May of the running academic year, just to give you an overview of what we have done and achieved since being in office. Now, whilst most students were on summer holidays, we started our roles on the 1st of July last year. And thanks to our student interns during the summer, the Ausa TikTok launched, which had great success rates and great viewings and likes. We also got quarantine fees paid for, which was an incredible achievement. So the university paid the quarantine fees for students coming from red list countries who had to quarantine in government facilities. And there were some changes to how sport is conducted, mainly due to a move from King's Pavilion to Botchart, but also due to other reasons, and obviously getting things back up after the pandemic. Then in September, when the academic year formally started again, we ran an incredible Freshers 2021. Again, thank you so much for all the students that engaged with it, the student volunteers, the societies and clubs who made it a success. I had a lot of fun. I hope you had a lot of fun as well. We also launched our Quarantine Kids campaign for students who had to self-isolate, and we distributed over 500 quarantine support kits to those students. They conducted some helpful information and mental health resources, as well as just some goodies to make the time in isolation more bearable. September also saw the return to in-person activities for our societies and sport clubs. It saw the return to the Scottish Student Sport and to BUCS. And we got a new policy on late submissions implemented, which was also a great success, thanks to the work of our VP for Education. Am I back?
You're back.
Cool. Okay, you can get some question. You can see some pictures here from events during the Freshers Week, as well as from the quarantine kids. Moving on to September, October, the university finally divested from fossil fuels, which was after an 8-year-long student campaign that you and former students at the university led since 2013. So well done for that. It was an incredible achievement, and it got agreed on in the university court in the last week of September. And with that, I am handing over, I believe, to my fellow sabbatical officer. I must admit I forgot who, but Ivana. Yes, I'm handing over to Ivana, who will take us through the rest of the autumn term.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ivana. I'm the current Vice President for Welfare, and I use she and her pronouns, and I'll take you through October and November months and what we did then. So in October, we launched our Enough is Enough campaign and supported students through their incidents with spiking. We worked with university to improve the personal tutor system. We ran our by-elections where we elected our new counselors for all of the subcommittees. And we also started hosting Postgrad Cafe, which was quite successful and run until very recently. Student Workers Forum had elected their first convener, so they launched. We had our personalized sub playlist on Spotify, and we hired our sustainability coordinator, who is still in his role as of now. You can see him there in the corner. That's Joe. So then in November, we ran Movember campaign. We had few events running alongside it, such as Games Night, and also Adam and Camilo launched Give It a Kick throughout November, and it's still ongoing. They had more than 20 sessions and they have loads of participants. It's it's a football session where you can come along no matter who you are or what your experience is with football. We also secured funding from Against Violence and Abuse project. It was £1,500, which we are going to use for consent training. We hosted successful event of bulb planting and pizza at Hillhead with Secret Garden. And we also secured in-person graduations, first one since 2019, I believe. So it was good end to November. And I'll hand over to Camilo.
Yeah, hi everyone. I am Camilo, Vice President for Communities. I use he and him as pronouns. I'm going to talk about December and January. Yes. So yeah, and I think that this is kind of like a result of very lots of different fights or campaigns that we had to help students deal with the pandemic. So we will in many times we have to discuss with the university and kind of like take students' side to try to convince them, with the detriment policy. And this is just another example of that. I think it sounds like a small thing, but yes, that can be very helpful for students to just have one extra week to for pressure, especially with these hard times. On January, I think thanks to Ivana and the work she's been doing, we managed to get pronouns to be added to Blackboard, and we've had very, very good feedback from this. Lots of people are happy to finally be able to be identified correctly and not be misgendered. So I think this is a small change, technically, but I think it has had a huge impact for many people at the university, and also helps open conversations about this. And sometimes it saves some conversations about this. So I think it's a good thing. There was also mental health, the signing of the the launch of the mental health agreement, where we had our new rector, Martina, and we have also Abby Brown from the university, student dean. And so I think that was also kind of like part of that work towards making student experience better in terms of mental health and workload and all that. And we also held we also participated in the Excellence Awards, especially our VP for Education, Andre. He was part of the hosts that day. So I think that was also kind of like a good opportunity to just award the people that is doing extra work, like an extra mile, and helping kind of like student community in general. Yeah. The next one, please. And yeah, so in January we have in February we have our refreshers. We were happy to be in person again. It is usually not as huge as freshers, but we still had a very nice turnout. We had a lot of people joining societies, committees, and I think overall it was just continuing to just try to go back to normality and more in-person events, and we're just happy to be able to see students any chance we have. And another big change was that we relaunched our volunteering website. This is something that during pandemic it just stopped. It was hard to just continue monitoring, making sure that students were safe and they were having good conditions during the pandemic, because everything was kind of like just in a very different situation. So we finally relaunched it. You can just go into Ausa website and just click on volunteering, and you will have lots of opportunities. How the system works is that organizations, charities, companies around Aberdeenshire mostly, they will kind of like set up a profile in our website, and they offer different opportunities, and you just go and click and sign up. So this kind of like database is growing every week. We have lots of things there. So we're just happy to go back and try to help in terms of employability and volunteering again. Yep. So next. And yeah, this is something that I wanted to work since the beginning, and finally making first steps to promote more cycling and active travel at the university. So we relaunched our kind of like small scale bike scheme from Ausa, where you can get a bike for free for a couple of weeks. I don't know if you want to just try and get around the city, try how it is. If you just want to go like do a short trip, camping trip with friends, I don't know. I think we've had a great response. They're like all the time they're being used. People we have very good feedback from that. Some people have just take it and go for a travel or go for a trip near Aberdeen. Some people are using them more often to go to uni. So I think this is a good first step towards a bigger kind of like bike scheme that we want to work with the university. We also had our first equity forum in person. So equity forum is the kind of like the place or the meeting with all the different liberation fora come together, like a BEM forum, LGBTQ forum, trans student forum, disabled student forum, and so on. So we finally managed to get everyone in one room, and I think that was amazing. It was again a different feeling. And we can see this meeting as an example. When you're just on a Teams call, like maybe you don't feel too motivated to chat or to ask questions, but then when we came together in one room, like it was a totally different environment, and everyone was very vocal, and we managed to kind of like advance a lot in that sense. And from that meeting is that we came out, or like forums came up with the idea of creating a liberation network. So change the name, and one of the things that we're going to vote about today is to try and get officially that kind of like liberation network accepted, where forums will have more autonomy in their finances and more autonomy to just kind of like take care of people with protected characteristics at the university. Next one, please. So I think now it's Andre who is going to do the last bit. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Camilo. So for those who don't know me, I'm Andre, and I'm the Vice President for Education, and we're going to go through our wins in March and April. So in March, we had quite a lot going on with the elections. So we've elected a brand new sabbatical team. And along that, we've also had Granite City Challenge that Adam worked really hard on, and it's been great to have it back in person. Although it wasn't the result that we would have all wanted, it was really nice for everybody to get to participate in that. And along that, we've had many celebrations. So we've had the King's Ball the very same month, where we celebrated the societies and the successes that they've had over the year. Then we've also had the Sports Awards, which had really good attendance. And I think a lot of the sports clubs were really recognized for their going above and beyond this year. And at the same time, we also had the rector installation and Live on the Lawn, which has been quite well attended by students. So it was really great to, again, celebrate in person and have those kind of moments that we didn't have for quite some time. So there's lovely pictures there of all of us. And if we go to the next one, so then we've had April, we've finally seen the official university investment committee speaking out and divesting from the fossil fuels as been spoken about by my colleagues. We've then had the boat race, and we've actually came as winners in this one, so it was quite good to get back out there. And then we've also had online sustainability week. And I think that's everything for me. And I don't believe we have any more slides upcoming. So we're going to move to the bylaw amendments.
Okay, thank you very much, Andre. And thank you very much to the entire sabbatical team. 1 second, I'll just have a look at this. Okay, yeah, as Andre said, we're going to move on to the bylaws, but first, we have a section for you to ask questions of the questions. We have our section to ask questions to the sabbatical officers. Okay, so anything relating to the work that they've done over the past year, or any other questions broadly related to that that anybody would like to bring up at this time. Okay, so if you have any questions, do please raise your hand so that we can see that you have the questions and we'll get to you. And if you're unable to use the raise your hand function, do please put them into the chat, okay? Just give everybody a few minutes to formulate questions if they have any. Okay, just 1 second, everybody, while we just give everybody just a few moments more while we just have a look at something that's going on just now as well. But it doesn't look as though there are any questions. Okay. I've just been informed by the staff members monitoring the situation that we have lost quorum, and as such, there will be no further votes taken on anything binding. That's all motions and bylaw changes will now not be able to be voted on due to the lack of a quorum present. We can, however, proceed with the discussion points that do not require a vote. The sabbatical officers or the trustees essentially filling us in on any other data that or important points that do not require a vote. Okay, so we will proceed with that now. So as such, the bylaw amendment section will be missed, so will the motion section, but the discussion points can be brought up. And we have the first discussion led by the student president, along with the vice president for education, the vice president for welfare, regarding the university in a post-COVID world. Okay, so we'll invite them up to speak just now.
Hello everyone, I'll quickly explain what we are going to do just now. So I'll give you a short introduction to what we are trying to get as information, and then I will give you more information on what the university is planning, and then you'll have the chance to tell us what you think of that and what you would like to see in the upcoming year. So as you know, the past couple of years were very strange. Things were changing all the time, and there wasn't much stability. And again, in September, it will probably change, especially for those that only went through university during COVID. So we are looking to find out what the new normal should look like and what you would like it to be. What have we learned from the pandemic, and what is something like some good behaviors that we could bring with us to next year. So on the next slide, you'll see 6 principles that the university is planning to use next year. So employ active pedagogical approaches, make most effective use of in-person teaching, design opportunities for community building, assessment should be authentic and efficient, provide timely and meaningful feedback on assessment, and ensure accessibility and inclusivity. Now we'll give you the chance to tell us what you think the new normal should be, and please use one word. On the next slide, there should be information on how to do that. Or no. I think it will be sent into the chat. My apologies. So the question will be, what do you want to see from the new normal? And we'll wait until, yeah, Ellie just sent the link into the chat. So if you could fill in the Mentimeter, and we'll see the one word that you're thinking of as the new normal.
Just to reiterate once again, yeah, of course, I mean, this is obviously not any particular type of voting, but this will be non-binding in any way. Okay, so this is purely just for a feedback type of thing, nothing else.
Thank you for that. That's very useful. Is there anyone who would like to maybe speak up and tell us a bit more on why they put what they did into the Mentimeter? If there is someone, just please raise your hand and then we'll be able to let you speak up.
Doesn't appear that we have any volunteers at this time. That's okay. We've got a question saying, can we ask questions about the 5 points?
Yes, I think Andre will be the best person to answer those. If you mean the 6 points that the university set out, the 6 principles. Sorry, I can't see the question.
It's just asking if
yeah. I opened the chat now. Sorry. Yeah. Ellie, can you switch back to, or I can just copy them into the chat. Just a second. I posted the principles in the chat, and if you have any further questions, Andre, VP for Education, can help you out.
Cool. Okay. So if anybody has any questions for the Vice President for Education, if you would just, raise your hand, that'll do. 1 second then. We'll just make it available for you to speak in just a second, okay? And then, yeah, you should be all right in just a second.
I think somebody has their hand up.
Yeah, we're just waiting for the staff to allow them to unmute.
Hi, I was just wondering what is meant exactly by provide timely and meaningful feedback and assessment. I believe the university policy right now is 3 weeks. Is that going to change?
I believe there's currently a working group that is looking at what do students want from feedback more long term, but I don't think that working group will be finished just yet for the upcoming academic year. So that is kind of separate of it, but it's kind of recognizing what kind of feedback do we give to students. So, you know, looking at different approaches of how we can meet the 3-week time frame by using peer feedback, individual or group feedback, use of alternative modes of feedback, such as audios or rubrics and annotations and things like that. So, but in terms of the timelines, I don't believe there's currently planned change. So we're just going to reinforce more that everybody really needs to keep to the 3 weeks, and the feedback that they give to students need to be so that they can enact some changes into their assessment and achieve better in their following assessment. So I hope that is helpful.
Does that answer your question? I think it was it Freya that asked that? Yeah. Don't know if she's still able to speak.
Yeah, I just wrote in chat. It's fine. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Okay. Thanks for that. Okay then. Next up, I think we have a question from Shan. You should be able to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Hi. Yeah. Sean Wallace, Disabled Students Forum. I was wondering about the first principle, effective use of in-person teaching. I think not. Sorry, the second one. Make effective use of in-person teaching. I just wondered whether this would entail the possibility for a blended approach, half and half, online and in person, as this has been extremely beneficial for disabled students.
So I think all universities, including ours, we do recognize that there is a lot of learning that we need to take away from what we've been doing over the last 2 years, and what kind of things have worked and what kind of things have not worked, and you know, what do we want to go back to, what do we not want to take from pre-COVID times. And I think we've been having a lot of conversation about how do we use content, and especially how do we use in teaching terms times that the lecturer has with the students. You know, is a lecture a really good use of face-to-face time with students? And in many instances, I would say it probably isn't. So it's looking at how do we use digital content that can be very deliverable in kind of bite-sized chunks to support the learning that you can undertake at home. And when you come to classes, you will participate in more active learning, active peer-to-peer and student-staff interactions. You know, we want that to foster a sense of community when you're on campus, and we want it to be as interactive as possible. So if there is content that is not maybe as interactive, or maybe doesn't need to be delivered in person, how do we make online materials that people can use on their own time? But at the same time, if there's going to be lectures, we still have our lecture capture policy. So lectures should still be recorded going forward. So I hope that answers the question.
That's great. Thank you. I'd like to be kept updated on how these things progress, but it does sound a really good policy idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Okay, is it Thomas? Yeah, next, please.
Hi, I'd just like to ask about number 4, assessments. So when we talk about assessments being more, what was the actual wording, authentic and efficient, does that kind of entail assessments going into one medium or another, such as more in-person assessments or more online assessments? Or is that more a matter for each individual school and department to discuss on their own terms?
So in terms of that, when we were designing this principle, we were thinking about reflecting and recreating real life situations. So we want to give students real life problems that are somewhere out there in the world and let you be part of kind of trying to test out the solutions and testing your skills and thinking in slightly a different way, so that we're not, for example, over assessing in terms of essays and things like that. So we wanted to explore a variety of assessment types and kind of working with employer community and embedding formative assessment to kind of support the learning, and also kind of looking at what the learning outcomes are, making sure that we don't test the same learning outcome in the same course multiple times. So kind of taking that variety of skills that you learn and making sure that the assessments reflect that and that they're relevant to your studies, they're relevant to what you're going to be doing post-university. So I hope that explains it.
That sounds very promising. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We have Freya again, I believe. I think that you should be able to unmute in just a second.
Yeah, hi, me again. I want to go back to what Sean was talking about the blended learning and how useful it is for students with disabilities. I was not fully satisfied with your answer, to be honest, because what I'm hearing from students, I'm also a class rep besides being a committee member. Students want the option of blended learning to continue. So I think the best option for Ausa is to work towards ensuring that. But in doing that, you also need to make sure that we actually have the facilities in the classrooms that allow for this blended learning. I think right now there's maybe a handful of classrooms that actually have that are set up for that. I have not been in one of these classrooms yet, and I've been here for, yeah, I was here before COVID as well at uni. So I think that's something you need to campaign for.
So do you want to elaborate a little bit? Because I think the issue here is what I imagine as blended learning is different than you imagine what blended learning is. So do you want to elaborate on what do you mean by that?
I mean, seminar groups where some students are participating online and there's some students sitting in the classroom. Students who are participating online are not able to hear what is actually being said in the room, either due to microphone issues, really loud air conditioner. Sometimes we also can't hear what the students online are saying because there's just not a good speaker system. Yeah.
So I will try to summarize the kind of conversations that have been happening for nearly a year. So when it comes to designing courses that work like that, it is extremely resource intensive on staff, and as you said, we don't have IT capabilities to deliver it in every single room, so it makes it a timetabling challenge. So the decision was, because we pre-COVID, we were not in person, we were not a kind of online blended institution, that we're going to the same model as we were before, because if people want to engage online, we also offer variety and big range of online degrees at the University of Aberdeen, and the ones who deliver those courses are experts on how do they teach through different modes of online engagement. And that's why many of our staff wanted to go to that one approach of teaching, because, for example, as a result, they were not able to do any of the research, they were not able to do other stuff, because designing dual delivery it's very intensive on their time, and it created lots of anxiety for them in many instances. And as you say, we got a lot of feedback that it was not working in so many cases. So we decided that the best approach is kind of going to that previous model and kind of looking how we can use some of the materials somebody, for example, misses a class, and how do we make up for it without, for example, being punitive as we were in the past. But how do we make the most out of the learning and most out of the time that students have with us, but also how do we then support students who sometimes struggle on particular occasion rather than to have it as kind of across the entire term.
So what you're saying is basically, despite hearing from students who do have difficulties or have disabilities, that the blended mode is helpful for them, you're not going to pursue it because of we just don't have the technology.
I didn't say that. We do not have the
you were
technology.
saying.
We do not have the technology at the moment, and I think if we wanted to explore it, it would take a lots of resource, and we can explore it probably in the future. But I think right now we just don't have the kind of time resources to move forward with it, because it's, you know, we're hoping to bring much more people on campus compared to what we have. So to make that actually work, it would be so much more work going forward than it is currently, and we just currently don't have that resource. And I think we can speak to places like Scottish Funding Council to see where we can take it going forward, but unfortunately we just don't have those kind of resources on our hands right now.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get any further. So that was telling. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the questions there. We'll move on. Okay, if we could enable Flora to unmute, and also Anthony after that, to make sure that, you know, we're kind of keeping a good flow. So Flora, you can begin your question now, if you would, please.
Thanks, Daniel. So I was wondering regarding the, well, I guess the assessment / most effective use of in-person teaching, whether sort of employability has been thought of or embedded, whether there is an action plan to inquire employers what they are looking for in graduating students, the kind of skills that we should have, and whether that is going to be taken into account to improve the courses. And also, you mentioned the video recordings, and I just wanted to clarify if it's going to be utilizing the videos that are already recorded and are working, because I know that previously they also had lecture recordings, but it was without the slides and the microphone and the voice quality was really low. So I was just wondering if we would keep it the same style.
I will answer part of it, and I'm gonna give a heads up to Ruth, then I'm gonna bring her in on this one, if that's okay. And in terms of the employability, the university has kind of reworked their structure starting in September last year, and they have now developed a structure where each school has a employability lead, and there's now employability and entrepreneurship committee that meets kind of centrally within the university. So we kind of talk about everything that you've just mentioned about how do we make some of those links with industries, how do we make sure that the work-based learning is kind of embedded in a curriculum. And that's why we have a lead from each and every single school within the university, and they are taking away all of that information, sharing it with other schools, and embedding it into the curriculum. It's not going to be quite an easy process that we have decided that now our curriculum is going to be embedding all sorts of employability within it. It's a process, so there's going to be things every year that are added throughout that process, and I would encourage students to leave feedback about what was working for them, what would they want to see more, within their courses, because it doesn't just happen that we suddenly flip a switch and we know all that works for our students. So I think the university is going to be trying to get there over time, and hopefully there will be better satisfaction for our students with what kind of employability skills they're getting after their degree. But I know we've been doing a lot of research with the employers, and the kind of skills that they're looking for are very different from what they used to be before COVID. So that will need to be addressed through curriculum. So I can give you an example. For example, they're saying that they really find resilience is now really important among students and graduates. Well, before COVID, they didn't really talk about resilience at all. So how do we make sure that our students are as resilient as they can be? And I'm afraid I have forgotten the second question that you had. So could you repeat it, please?
It was just to clarify if the video recordings are going to be the same style as they have been for blended learning.
I will bring Ruth for this one, but I think where it makes sense, probably, but if they're not good quality, I would hope they're not used again. So Ruth, could you come in just quickly, please?
Yeah, sorry for the delay. Hello, I'm Ruth Taylor. I'm one of the trustees. I'm the VP for Education. Just very quickly, the short answer is yes. We're working to ensure that the quality that was offered during blended learning continues, and there's been, as Andre says, a whole heap of learning over the past couple of years, and we've invested in the captioning as well, which I hope is helpful to you.
Yeah, thank you, both of you. That is really reassuring.
Okay, all right, thanks. Right then, Anthony, you want to just head in with your question then, and then could we allow Alexander to unmute as well, please? Yeah, thank you.
Hi, thanks, Anthony from the Gaudi. Just a quick question regarding number 3, design and opportunities for community building. I was wondering, could you just clarify what that exactly means?
So this is this encapsulates quite a lot of things. So it has different approaches within it. So how do we create connections with students, staff, and others such as employers, and whether that is through on-campus opportunities or through online opportunities. You know, we've had courses where we've allowed students to connect with big tech companies that are all over the world. They're not in Aberdeen. So how do we connect with those? But also, how do we create spaces that have supported discussions and, you know, allowing for that space to exist where people can interact with one another, whether it's, again, in person or online. And it would contain other kind of work that you would normally already be doing, such as group work, and explore other opportunities such as COILS. So Ruth remembers, she can put the acronym into the chat, but it's a kind of an opportunity to meet people kind of like in an exchange, but with both of you being where they are, but you can share your ideas with somebody who's at completely different universities in a different country, and you can have that cultural experience nonetheless, even if you're not going for example, a whole exchange semester. So that's the kind of idea behind it. So there's going to be a lot of trialing next year, so it's quite exciting time. So hopefully it will all go well. I hope that addresses the question.
Thanks, that was definitely clarified it for me. Thanks.
All right, thanks very much. Could we have Alexander's question then, and could we please unmute Helen? Okay, Alexander, if you just want to begin your question then.
Hello, it's actually Lily Nagy, just for the minutes and for everyone else joining from Alex's teams. I have a question for Andre about the points about authentic and efficient assessment and meaningful feedback. Just on the back of feedback to Andre about MCQ questions and all the issues we've been raising as class reps about not really getting meaningful feedback at all about MCQs. I just wondered where that conversation has got to, because the last time I heard from you was just before the spring holidays. I believe you were going to have some conversations about this. And secondly, are MCQs planned to be part of the authentic and efficient assessment? And if so, in what way are they going to be rethought, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think there's specific issues within the school that you're speaking about, and particularly with the postgraduate taught courses on the feedback issue. So in a larger picture, I would presume that the MCQs will still continue to be used, you know, because they can test all sorts of different activities and they can do it in quite an easy way, and maybe looking at how they can be just part of the assessment rather than like a big chunk of the assessment. But I think it's more about how does the feedback enable you to get something meaningful out of a assessment such as MCQ, and helps you improve for the next assessment, whether it's an MCQ or not. And I think there's particular regulatory bodies that prefer different types of assessment. And I believe in psychology, it is unfortunately one of those that kind of does it. But I've been in touch with Jason, so we're going to have those discussion a bit more in depth. We still have about 2 months, thankfully, before they have to submit everything. So we're hoping to have those discussions. And I know there have been quite a number of challenges there, but I'm hoping we can come to a conclusion that will benefit the students and their learning.
Would it be possible, I mean, I really don't want to put you on the spot. I'm just wondering, is it possible to make a commitment on behalf of Ausa to push for getting feedback to students about MCQ questions in the School of Psychology? Is that something that that you are able to put a commitment to?
Yeah, I think we've been committed to it for pretty much an entirety of the year. I'm not gonna lie, there were some challenges with it, and I think if more transparency is what you're looking for, then we can definitely be more transparent about the process.
That would be fantastic. Thank you very much.
Okay, then I'm going to take Helen's question on this one then, and that'll be the last one for us. Okay, on this topic.
Hello, can you hear me? Am I audible? Sorry.
I can hear you.
Great. So I just want to clarify that in light of the fact that the word bubble, accessible and hybrid were some of the biggest words there, and your own point 6 about accessibility and inclusivity, Ausa is planning to discontinue support for hybrid education, something that like loads of students like, and a number of disabled students have said really helps them. Am I understanding that correctly, that that is the policy?
Could I ask Ruth to kind of say a little bit about the discussion that we had at the University Senate to adopt this?
Hi, everyone. I'll be brief, but what I found this conversation absolutely brilliant to listen to, and would be delighted to get into a similar sort of discussion outside of the formality here. What I can say is that we are taking forward the findings from our evaluation of blended learning, looking at what's going on across the sector, and I'm leading a big piece of work going into the next academic year around just the sorts of things that you're describing here. One of our big questions, sort of, I don't know whether this is the right way to say it, but is how flexible is flexible? How flexible can we be in terms of our delivery? Because of course there's all sorts of issues to manage, some of which Andre has identified. So the question for Andre was, will Andre and Ausa continue to press? And that's for them to answer. But very happy to open up the conversation with as many students as want to around this area as we go into the next phase of our development. I hope that's helpful.
Okay, does that answer the question?
And from our perspective, from Ausa, you know, we're always open to feedback, so we're gonna take that away and discuss it with the sabbatical team on what do we want the approach of lobbying and all of that. So I would encourage you to get in touch with us after the meeting, and we can discuss, you know, what is it that really creates the barriers for you or for other students, so that we can lobby the university to remove them.
Okay, all right. I'm going to leave the discussion on this particular point there because we've had quite a lot going on with it. Thanks everybody for your contributions and your questions, everything like that. I also takes them very, very seriously and really appreciates all of your feedback. So we'll move on then. We'll move on. The next point that we have is a second discussion point regarding the current challenges for students on campus in terms of the space for personal and social activities. Okay, so the lead on this is the Vice President for Communities and the Vice President for Sports. Okay, so I'll just invite them up to speak now, and we'll move on to this point. Okay.
Yeah, hi everyone. I think Vice President for Sports is not feeling well today, so we accident yesterday. So hoping the best for him. Is here? Yeah, he's here. Okay, I'm glad. So thank you, Andrea, and thank you for everyone else for the previous topic. We want to talk now about space for students. We're talking only about like classroom space, but mostly space for socializing and for events. No, so the question or topic is like, what are the biggest challenges for students in terms of space on campus for personal and social activities? We, as many of you here, are part of clubs and societies, and we at Ausa, we know like that in the past year, there's been a problem of not having enough spaces for students, for student activities, for holding meetings, for holding quizzes, for anything, and of course, I mean, this was before the pandemic, and then with the pandemic, it just got worse because many buildings are closed after office hours. You know, they change. They have maybe less people kind of working there, so it's hard to keep them open, to have enough staff to keep them open. So I just kind of want to know, ask the students here, what kind of spaces should the university be prioritizing? What kind of events you would like to hold in the university and you can't find space? Know which kind of space should we be prioritizing? This is because, of course, we as Ausa, our job is to lobby the university to improve the things. No, like we cannot always provide them. We have our own spaces, and also we can take this away and help, kind of like transfer our own spaces, but we want this to be a change around the university, so we can get your suggestions and your ideas or complaints and take them to the university. So yeah, I open the floor for that. Thank you.
Okay, I believe we've got a question then from Martina. I think this is one for this one. You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Hi, can you hear me?
You're slightly faint.
Okay, sorry, it's my mic. I'll try to speak up.
That's a bit better, yeah. Thanks.
I'm currently the president of the Career Writing Society, and we have managed to survive the pandemic and keep going into this like kind of blended year through the usage of a blended form of meetings. I know that this isn't applicable to all societies, but even though I personally will not be personally involved with the committee next year, I know that there is the committee is going to try to keep the blended mode on, because it helps people who, for whatever reason, cannot attend meetings in person. And we've received really good feedback from our members about that. And I'd say a challenge for us has been to find spaces that would allow us to keep up a blended mode of meeting. So both people in person and people online are able to participate and interact with the meeting as best as they can. And that has been a kind of an issue this year with like booking and finding the best rooms for that purpose. So like that's sort of what I would like to see improve next year, to have like a clear kind of category of rooms that can be booked that can accommodate these needs.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think definitely, and also from our perspective, like a priority should be that we have more like spaces for kind of like this kind of blended approach. It's just like from my perspective, there's still this mentality that we are still in a crisis. Like there's still a lot of impact from COVID and from lockdown, but I feel like from my perspective, like the university is still in this mentality that they can only do the bare essential, which is kind of like class. But I think that we need to start kind of going forward and know that student experience is not only going to class. That's one important part. It's probably the most important, depending on what you like, but it's not all. So, and also kind of like the way you can access that. So I think like moving forward, we'll definitely try to get, and we're already starting these conversations with the university to try to get spaces for things. And so in terms of this blended approach, I think even for events, not only for class, but even for events, it's important to have that kind of spaces, like a VC room, a room where you can have a lot of people, but then connection is going to be easy, not that you have to set it up every time and spend the first 20 minutes of any meeting trying to just get the mic to work. No. So I think like if we're getting all this from kind of like all this feedback, and we're definitely going to take this to the meetings we have to university, just to tell them that we need to do better, and it needs to be easier to just be able to get students to connect remotely. The discussion about classes and blended education, I think it was for the previous point, but it's related to this. It's just get university to meet us where we are, like what the student needs. That's what we always are going to ask university. Like, so there's a lot of interest to continue this. Of course we've been fighting about these things for all this time. We know how students feel about this, and we're already having those discussions. But it's always good to know that if the concern is there, it's our job to keep bringing that concern to any meeting. So yeah, I hope that kind of like addresses what you were meaning.
Okay, excellent. Could we unmute the two that are waiting then, please? And we'll begin with Rebecca for the next question.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah, cool. So I am captain of the archery club, and I think the biggest problem for us with space is just the sheer amount of competition for sports activity space. The sports village, we don't have exclusive use of it. As a university, we have to use it as much as possible, but it cannot accommodate the number of clubs, sports clubs that need to use it. and then there's just not any other option that is viable, you know. So it's not really a question, but I guess the only question part would be obviously the Butchart Hall, the new one, the one that was used for testing. Are Ausa going to be lobbying the university for that to become sports use?
Adam, do you want to take it or should I take it?
Yeah, I'm happy enough to take it. Yeah. So again, we are getting access to the big hall, which is a positive. And what's actually being done with that space yet is still to be 100% decided on from ourselves. But positive news there is that we are aware, obviously, that we need more space for sport, and we are looking for solutions around that there. But the positive news is we have the hall, just need to decide what's the best action for that, and what we need the space for, mostly, yeah.
Okay. I think, you know, it's really important not to use a space like that is so specialized for sports. You know, there's not going to be any other like venue with, you know, the high ceilings and the large amount of space that you need for sports. I think it would be such a shame to then use that for something else, like, I don't know, offices or something. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so I would add to that, to what Adam said, that, you know, the question is like, are we lobbying, is Ausa lobbying? Like, yeah, we've been lobbying for that space, like we've been fighting for that space. You know, we cannot just tell you right now, like, we're 100% going to get everything from there, but we're kind of like, we're just waiting for the tests place to go, and, you know, hopefully university by this point knows that we need that space. And in terms of the ASB, you know, thanks to Adam and the staff of Ausa, like, we secure a lot more money for sports this year, and some of that money is going to go for the spaces at the ASB. So what you say is totally right. Like, we are competing with kind of like other people for a space in our own ASB. So this kind of money will help to, you know, be very competitive in that. In my personal opinion, it's not the right system that we have to pay uni for our own space every single time, but that's a bigger conversation that, you know, we can always have. But in the short term, there's a couple of options that seems to be close enough, like we're working towards them, but we're not secure 100, but we're working towards that, and hopefully we'll have a bit more space and the competition will be a bit less hard not to get that space. But yeah, thank you for those comments.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Rebecca. David, do you want to come in and start your question then, and then could we unmute? Yeah, okay, all right, thanks. Get the process now.
Hi, thanks. I just wanted to sort of bring up the eternal question that is brought up sort of every AGM of when is sort of Ausa and the SAVs going to commit to lobbying for a proper union? Because most of these issues about having space, having students not having enough space to hold events, to hold meetings, that could easily be solved by building a proper union. And this is a question that has been brought up time and time, and students have just been left in the dark about it, and there's never been any progress. So I was wondering if, you know, there's going to be any change on that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Since before I got involved with Ausa, it's same. You know, it's always been the big question, and every time you go to other cities and see other buildings, like, you know, like, why we don't have that. So there's a lot of history in there that is a bit, you know, complicated, but that's no excuse. I think we are definitely working on that, in the sense that we're working on our strategic plan. So the previous strategic plan is you know, it's for 3 years. It's kind of like soon to be over. We need to work in a new one through the summer, and you know, so all this feedback that we're getting, all the kind of like all the ideas that you're giving us, is also going to help us build a case for uni. This is anecdotal, but for sure, and Adam can back me up on that. Every single time we meet with George Boyne, we just mention the new building, even as a joke, you know. But then, like, for real, we're always talking about this. I'll just say this has been for too long. I don't think there's real excuses for that, but I just want to reassure you that it's in our plans. I think it's something that is an objective that we need to have there. I think we're doing kind of like the previous work to get to that point. I think we're rebuilding kind of like the trust between the student union and the university. After past years that before lockdown, like I think we lost kind of like that trust from the university, and we always need to convince them that it's worth investing on us. So I think we're kind of like building that relationship. If you compare this kind of like this past year with previous years, we have very close kind of like we can collaborate a lot with people in higher ranks at the university. Of course, maintaining our independence as much as possible. So I think we are closer to kind of like be in that state of relationship where we can actually go and ask for a building, but we need a plan for that. We need a concrete plan for that. Of course, having changing sabbaticals every year and all that is always kind of like setback. It's hard to have continuity, but yeah, from my point of view, I think we are on the right path. It never will be fast enough, but I think we're in the right path for that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much then. Was that Luigi that just asked that? No, that was David, right? Okay. Could we have Luigi then their question, and then could we unmute the next two following that one, please?
Hi there. I'm guessing you can hear me. Thanks for taking time to take my question. If you could expand a little bit on the short-term goals. Sorry, I'm the president of the basketball club, just to give a little bit of where I'm coming from, my point of view. Just on the short-term goals of how we are going to facilitate providing space for various activities that are required by sports, by all the sports clubs. As you mentioned, it's difficult to have continuity between year to year as you change sabbatical officers. So the question comes down to what is the length of the development plan, and why is the development plan based on 3, 4, or 5 year lengths as opposed to thinking more year to year, and so on and so forth. And so basically, yeah, my question is, if you could expand on what those short-term goals are that you've been assessing, and what will come into play come September based on those assessments, as that is obviously our biggest concern. Thank you.
Yeah, so there's obviously a number of sporting facilities that I've been working with the university to sort of take a look at and assess their safety and stuff like that there. Again, I'm just going to apologize now. I'm on a lot of medication at the minute. A rough night last night with football, but yeah. So for example, we'll have Balgownie, which obviously has been in action for the most part of this academic year, and for the past goodness knows how many years hasn't actually been fit for purpose. But the university's finally decided to take action up there, and are investing in a new part of the building that can be used for proper changing rooms, facilities, and storage, which will then be in turn used then to relocate a lot of the sports back up there that have been moved to ASV, and has caused a lot of problems then with actual bookings because we're trying to put more people into the same space, if that makes sense. So relocating some of the sports out there. So again, we're hoping for this year to be up and ready for us to start using again for next year. Other spaces then we do have our Hillhead, which again there's some security concerns there and problems with the Astro that's there, and again the university will be looking over the state of the facilities there as well, and they've guaranteed secured funding then to increase the security up at Hillhead, which is a massive benefit, again making it much more suitable for sport and for storage and stuff like that as well. So again, yeah, just there's a lot of obviously the Butchert, as Rebecca had brought up as well. That's a possible place we'll be looking at there as well going forward. So again, just there's a lot of projects going through the current university facilities, and we're lobbying for funding for both the on-campus and off-campus facilities from the university. And we're also working with the university to integrate a full sporting strategy, which will ideally fit within the will fit, but with Ausa and the university longer term strategies as well. Yeah, again, so again that there's taken into that there's including obviously lobbying for more money that can be used with ASV, as it's almost a limiting factor as well for us at the minute. Yeah, I think that's hopefully I've answered your question there.
I'll just add that I think the kind of like what Luigi was saying is very important, and we are in a similar page, thinking that 3 years maybe like it's very short term. The university strategy is until 2040, so you know, like we're kind of like in different times. So I think it's a good comment that you say, Luigi, about thinking about 5-10 years, and I think we're thinking more about that kind of length of time for this strategy. We really don't want to. We really need continuity, as you said. We really don't want to go through this every year with the same questions. Yeah, thank you for the comment.
Yeah, no problem. And I'm definitely looking even, sooner than 5 and 10 years, even year to year. As I understand that, facility redevelopment takes a long time, of course, because it's a very expensive process. So really what will be done in the meantime to mitigate, the issues with far less the issues with storage and more the issues with actual space to participate or carry out what each and every one of the clubs, kind of advertise that we do, but it does definitely answer part of my question. But yeah, I'm kind of even looking, just to reiterate, again year to year, because redevelopment plans take a long time and that. Anyways, thank you so much.
Yeah, just to add on that again, just in terms of obviously the shorter term stuff, the lobbying for more money is something that will definitely affect next year if we're successful in granting more money. So that's sort of the shorter term stuff. Obviously, so can either relocate some of the sport that still won't be able to use facilities or whatever. But that's more the shorter term. But again, happy to have further discussion about this year when I'm back 100%. So I am.
No, absolutely, very understandable. Thank you again for clarifying.
Okay, all right. Thanks very much then. We'll take the final point on that. Is that the final point or the final 2 points? That was Luigi just there, wasn't it? Okay, yeah. We'll take the final point on this then. Alicia, if you want to come in.
Hiya. So I have taken over as president of the Tea Society this year, and one of the biggest complaints of the previous committee was that it was a nightmare to set up on-campus events because all the rooms are no food, no drink, and you can imagine Tea Society a little bit difficult. And we know the Union Brew has opened up, but that can be really, really busy. And again, Tea Society is an example. It's quite quiet, quite laid back, and that isn't exactly the most appropriate environment. Is there going to be anywhere else that we'll be able to meet up and do this sort of thing?
Yeah, I totally agree, and this is something that I think I've mentioned many times. So in like chats that I had, with people that are in charge of states and people that, or even with the principal, I mentioned the fact that the rooms you can book are only for class purpose, so you cannot eat, you cannot have a drink, it's very complicated. And I think the people I spoke with at the university, they are in this state that they haven't even thought about this kind of thing. So they say oh, we're happy to just open spaces again, but there are lots of rules and a lot of things that were mandated that were ordered during the pandemic, and the change is not just immediately. So I think there's a lot, even let's say if the principal or someone says that kind of like COVID is over, like some of the emails we get saying that basically it's over, but then kind of like the rest of the staff at the university, they kind of like slow in changing to that normality. So this point that you say is totally true. I think we cannot really enjoy the spaces with those rules that are the same. They're okay for classes, but not for, you know, having our events as we want. And yeah, again, and about Union Brew, we kind of like we try different approaches to try to keep it more open for people. We really want like societies and activities and sports to use that space for them. But yeah, I think the same limitations about opening hours for buildings, about, you know, for example, if you want to do something on the weekend, there's no way because we're not going to be there. You need to kind of like pay someone to be there. So some of these rules from COVID, they need to keep going, and yeah, we're definitely working on that. And yeah, just before Daniel, there's a couple of questions in the chat, I think, similar. So if I can address one, which is about having permanent spaces. This is something that we heard from societies, and you know, I think ideally we could have that, but as many of you know, we have over 160 or 70 societies and 50 clubs. So there's kind of like, not even with our ideal building, we'll have a room for every society. But I think both in the building that we have right now and both in the ideal building that we're going to ask the unit to build for us, we can have like multi-purpose rooms. So that's like why these meetings like this one, or the council, or the Menti meeting, I think Ellie is going to send, we're going to ask you directly what kind of room you need the most, like what is the use that you need. You know, it could be a music room, it could be a gaming room, it could be, I don't know, whatever you want. So it's important that you can like give us those ideas, because we're definitely working on this. And yeah, we understand the frustration about not being able to just do something as simple and nice as having a tea party. But yeah, I get it.
Okay. One final question, then I'm just going to take this one and we'll move on, because we have a couple of other things to attend to. But there was a question regarding whether there's any plans to improve communication between Ausa and ASV regarding the cancellations and the double booking of spaces. You haven't addressed that one yet, have you? Have you?
That has not been addressed just yet. Only a second. Yeah, so obviously at the minute we have one part-time member of staff looking at our bookings, which is Marie. We are in the process of getting another staff member in to fill in the other hours, which straight away is going to help with the cancellations and stuff like that there, as well as us improving the staffing on our side. This is going to be doing the admin work. ASV has sort of restructured and got more staff on their side as well. One person in particular, Bailey, I think Bailey's, Bailey is now helping with like bookings and stuff and working like directly with Marie, which is sort of just a role that's just sort of happened. They were just trialing it, and there definitely was an improvement over the past few weeks, or just towards the end of our sporting term, really. And again, going forward, then we'll hopefully still have a Bailey or someone in that position, and we'll have our two part-time staff members looking at fixtures on our side. And again, so there's a new system that we're looking to put in place as well this summer, so that every team can see their bookings directly, so you can monitor them there as well. Because at the minute we can't see what's actually booked on ASV systems, but we're getting access to that this summer, so that we could work more efficiently. And we're already starting to work on bookings now for 2023, for specific teams as well. Yeah, I think that's about all there. Hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, good. Right, we will move on.
You're mute, Daniel.
Oh, sorry. Could I just pop in a second? Yeah, sorry. So it's not actually, it's not so every team can access and see the bookings directly. Sorry, it's so we can access and see the bookings directly on ASV's system. I have misspoken. I apologize.
Daniel, will be okay if I address one of the comments in the chat.
Sure.
Yeah, I've seen 4 or 5 comments talking about having a meeting like this more often, about how having an AGM earlier. Some other people talking about getting involved in different ways. We do have channels for this, and I think also we do have spaces to talk about this. The student council is one of them. Usually we have a lot of positions to be filled in the student council, and we need this kind of discussions in there. But if you are not a counselor, which is not impossible to get one position there, but if you are not a counselor, you can still talk with student representatives, you can do class reps or any of the staff, like any of these topics can be brought to us, and we sure to discuss it. So I think I definitely agree with kind of like we're saying, the ideas about having, for example, I think it was Rory who said that having one of these every month, like, I think I'll be happy to do it. This is the most engaged we have in the whole year, and it's amazing. We're just happy to hear directly from you. And yeah, I'm happy to take that one and try to get like some sort of kind of like update meeting generally. We can work like the technicalities around that, but if there's interest from students, we will just going to just go and meet just whatever you want to be. So that's our job basically. So I'm just taking these comments about how to get more engaged, and yeah, I think a monthly meeting could work. We have the council, but it's not for everyone, so I guess we could try and get something more open, a monthly one. I would love in person or blended, but we can decide details. Thank you.
Okay, right. We're going to move on from that point for now. Okay. Thanks for everybody's feedback in that one and everybody's questions. Okay, then that brings us to an end on the section on the discussion points. We now have a section on the Ausa Awards presentation led by the Vice President for Welfare. And this is a recognition of the work of all the students, and the 8 annual awards that we give out to help identify the students who have done the most outstanding work to improve the lives of other students on the campus, and generally who have gone over and above to help out around the campus. Okay, so there's a range of categories, and we've got the Vice President for Welfare to present them.
Thank you, Daniel. That was a really beautiful intro. I don't even have much to add, but yes, I'm back. I'm Ivana, she and her pronouns, and I'm the current Vice President for Welfares. And thank you so much for staying on. It's amazing to see all of the nominations that we had, and congratulations to everyone that was nominated. But now I'll go through the winners of the awards. So first one is the Above and Beyond Award, which is an award given to a student who has gone above and beyond for other students in the community or for a charity. And this year's winner is Julia Pamp, who has gone above and beyond to ensure smooth running of the Nordic Society. Through a hard-working attitude, Julia ensures that Nordic Society always responds quickly to messages, even if it's after hours, and that all events are planned to the tiniest detail. So congratulations, Julia, for the award. The next award is Ausa Green Award. An Ausa Green Award is given to a student group, society, or club that has shown exceptional efforts and dedication to environmental sustainability within Ausa, the university, and the wider community. This year's winner is the Secret Garden Society, which focused this year's efforts on sustainable living. They started using new practices of permaculture, as well as staying away from herbicides, pesticides, and fertilizers. They also continue to share recipes on how to use seasonal fruits and vegetables, and they also run earlier this year workshops on the importance of pollinators. Next award is the Mental Health Advocate of the Year. Mental Health Advocate of the Year is an award that recognizes students, student group, society, or club that is open to discussing mental health with individuals or create conversation with other members. This year's winner is Rachel Fletcher. The who has volunteered as fundraiser and well-being officer at the Equestrian Club and consistently provided members with emotional support and created support networks within the membership. Congratulations. Next award is Most Engaged Award. Most Engaged Award goes to a student who has been engaged in many areas within Ausa. This year, the award goes to Ainhoa Burgos Aguilera. Ainhoa volunteered with Ausa over the Freshers Week as a content creator, has been committee member of the Secret Garden Society and the Photography Society. Well done. We have 4 awards remaining. This is a new award. We have Outstanding Forum Award, which we decided to start this year because we have seen amazing efforts from all of the forums over the year. So I would like to say big thank you to all of them for representing students from marginalized communities. So this award is given to a forum that has shown exceptional efforts and engagement with the community. This year's winner is Black, Asian, and Minority Ethnic Students Forum that stimulated discussion throughout the university. They have focused on creating safe space for ethnic students to express their concerns and actively help them to find solutions to their issues. They had been open to new ideas and always reached out to when they saw a new opportunity. The Old Aberdeen Community Award goes to an individual group, society, or a club who has had an impact within the local Old Aberdeen community. This year's winner is the Secret Garden Society, which has provided space for students to grow fruits and vegetables, created volunteering opportunities, and was even involved in local projects such as Community Garden Festival. Congratulations. The second to last award is Student Leader of the Year. Student Leader of the Year is given to a student who has demonstrated exceptional leadership skills within the Ausa community. The winner is Rebecca Lee, who has been a true leader of the Aberdeen University Archery Club. She has given up her own time to help with equipment maintenance, coaching beginners, finding new spaces to train. She has organized taster sessions for the local Finding Your Feet charity to allow people with disability to try out archery. Since taking over the role as the captain, the club has been better equipped and performed better in the Scottish Student Sport League. Congratulations. And last, but definitely not least, is the Team of the Year award. Team of the Year award is an award for a dedicated committee that is open and inviting to new members and constantly looks into ways on how to improve themselves and the student community. So the winner is Aberdeen Student Show admin team that ensured the continued success of the event post-COVID. The professionalism of the team has led to visibility of the university and Ausa and showed of the various skills of our community. This can be seen by the high-profile support given by the local businesses. Congratulations and big congratulations to all of the winners. Thank you so much for participating and creating the community that we have. So thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you all for your hard work this year. And thank you to Ivana for presenting that. Okay, that brings us to the end of the AGM, unless there is anything else that anybody would like to bring up as just any accessories, any side things, very small if you would, very quick. We've got a hand up somewhere, let me just get to it. A word from the student president, please.
Thank you. I would just like to briefly thank everyone who's come to the AGM and especially also our student councillors who have been attending the student council meetings for the past months. It's been a pleasure to work with you, and also special thanks to Daniel and Frank, our chair of student council and our vice chair of student council for this year, for all the hard work they've done. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure and it was truly an honor to be a student president. And I'm looking forward to continue working with you in the next 6 weeks until I hand over my duties to my successor.
Thank you very much to the student president. And if we could have a quick word then as well from the Vice President for Communities.
Yeah, similar to what Alisa was saying, I just want to thank everyone to be so involved today. Just the same feeling from the comments. If we get this excitement like every month for the next year, imagine how we can change the university. Like, it's going to be impressive. It's going to be amazing. We had other topics to discuss, that we couldn't address today, but there's a lot of change coming. We're talking about different tier visa for students, also to become a sponsor for visas and students, to make it more inclusive. We're talking about creating the liberation network for different forums. We're talking about making change easier by reforming the referendum rules. So all these things we couldn't address them today, but hopefully in the next meetings, in the next councils, if we get people as involved or today, just change is going to come a lot faster, and we're going to make it better and more and right every time. If we get so much feedback, we're going to be more sure of what you really want and you really need as students. So thank you for coming today. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you to our staff, and I hope to see many of you being as involved during the next year. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much to everybody who's come along today. Thank you very much to the staff members for setting this up for us, of course. Thanks to the elected officers and to the councillors. And yeah, thanks to everybody for coming along and helping out to make Ausa better. Okay, cool. I believe that's everything then. I'll sign off then. Thanks everybody for coming once again. See you all later on.